Namaskaram. Let's continue our discussion on PGBP chapter. Yesterday, I was trying to give you logic behind this division of 5 phases. We had reached up to phase number 4. Now, let us discuss about phase number 5 and let's continue with the revision part of PGBP chapter. In other relevant provision, we majorly study presumptive income. So, what do you mean by presumptive income? Presumptive income means presumptive income means an alternative mechanism where we compute tax for business class. Now, for business class, we use 8% or 6%. Business class means trader, manufacturers, normal service providers. For them, we are having 8% or 6%. By default, we used to have 8% of turnover. But if you received the turnover by account pay check, account pay draft, ECS, and other prescribed electronic mode, to encourage non-cash transaction in the country, we give them the benefit of 2% concession, and then we take 6% of the turnover as the profit margin of a business. For a professional assessee means chartered accountant, cost accountant, lawyers, doctors. For them, we are having turnover into 50% as a presumptive income. And for GTA, for goods transport agent, we are having 7,500 per vehicle per month or part thereof, something like this. Just wanted to tell you, presumptive means we assume that this is the profit of the assessee, that need not to be the final amount, but it gives an alternative mechanism. Please understand, it gives an alternative mechanism to business class to follow a presumptive presumptive methods where they can determine their profit without maintaining of books of accounts, and they have a lot of relief from the compliance and day-to-day activities of the transactions. So with this, let's start with the revision part of the PGBP. So there are two methods through which answer can be determined. If in exam they provide you receipt and payment account, please understand, receipt and payment account is the cash bank account. Cash bank account means this will be having debit side and credit side. On debit side, you can see the income, and credit side, you can see the expenses. Please understand, on debit side, you will find an income, and credit side, you will find an expenses. But problem with receipt and payment account is receipt and payment account does not provide you the result of that particular period, meaning thereby it does not provide you profit or loss of a business. You will not have profit and loss of the business. You will have only what type of income you have received during the year, or what type of receipt has happened during the year, and where you have paid the money. It can be expenditure, it can be personal expenditure, it can be repayment of the loan. So whenever in a question they are providing you receipt and payment account, your answer will be by direct method. So while presenting your answer, you'll follow direct method. Direct method is one of the most easiest method, where we simply check what is business income and we subtract what is business expenditure. Business income minus business expenditure. Please mute your mic. Please mute your mic. Yeah, business income minus business expenditure. This is what we do when we follow the direct method of PGBP. So this usually comes hardly 1% in exam. 99% indirect method comes. In indirect method, in question format, they will provide us either profit and loss account, or they will provide us data of a profit and loss account. Whatever way, the alternative of profit or loss account is income expenditure account. Even income expenditure account can come, meaning thereby they will provide you net profit. In question, they will provide you net profit. If in question net profit is already provided, then that net profit has to be changed in such a way, or it has to be reconciled in such a way that it becomes a business profit according to income tax law. Net profit is prepared by, please understand, this net profit or profit and loss account is prepared by account department. We have to do certain things. We have to do certain modification. We have to do certain adjustment. We have to allow certain item. We have to disallow certain item. And after doing the required modification, we will determine the profit. That profit will be profit as per tax department. So we will start our journey with P&L from accounts or profit from the account department, then we will disallow certain expenditure according to income tax. That is the cancel effect on the debit side of the profit and loss account. Then there will be income which belongs to some other heads that we have to subtract. So that is the credit side effect, credit cancellation. And then there will be plus and minus adjustment provided in the question. Obviously, to learn this, you have to go through the question. There you will get it more. Now let us start with the phase 1 of a PGBP chapter. Phase 1 talks about business income. So to tax particular income under business head, there has to be a business or a profession. Please understand, there has to be a business or a profession, and it has to be carried on by the assessee. That means if you are working for someone else's business, if you are an employee, you are working for someone else, then you cannot compute your income under PGBP chapter. Your income will be assessed under salary chapter, but your owners, your employer's income will be assessed under PGBP chapter. Now, it can be carried out at any time during the previous year, meaning thereby, in a previous year, you must have a business. That business may not be in existence in assessment year. Due to lockdown and COVID-19 situation, what has happened? People who had run the business in the last year, 2021, they may not have business in 21-22. Please understand. People who are having business in 2021, they may not have business in the current year. Previous year, they were running the business. In assessment year, they don't have a business. So their income will be computed under which head? Definitely it will be computed in the PGBP head, because condition of section 28 says business must be in existence during the previous year, need not to be there in the assessment year. It may be there, it may not be there. Now, what do you mean by business? Business includes any trade. Trade means purchase, sale, you know that. That is trade. Any commerce, any service industry, transportation, insurance, banking, that is commerce. Business can also include manufacturing industry, and it can also include any adventure in relation to trade, commerce, and manufacturing. Like, e-commerce industries or Ola or Uber or Oyo, any adventure that you are doing in nature of a business will be considered business activity. So what do you mean by profession? Profession is not defined in income tax law. Profession means it requires certain degree of qualification and experience. So what about cricketers and singers and dancers, where we will compute their income? So their income is also computed under PGBP chapter, because profession includes vocation. Profession includes vocation. So please remember that profession includes vocation. That means cricketers, movie makers, everybody's income will be assessed under business income. Practically, business is different and profession is different, but here in PGBP chapter, theoretically, they always say business or profession, meaning thereby we don't treat these two as a separate activities. We treat them as the same activity, and therefore all the sections which are there in the PGBP chapter, they are equally applicable to business as well as to the profession. So this is the basic thing that you should know here. So some illustrative list of business income. We cannot have exhaustive list of business income, let me tell you, because in this world, we are having so many types of different business activities. Uncountable business activities are going on, and therefore you cannot create a exhaustive list of business income. We have to rely only on illustrative list. Illustrative list is just created to put more light, on certain provision. Let's talk about some of the important business income. First thing is any profit and gain of a business or profession, profit on sale of import entitlement license, cash compensatory support or duty drawback, profit on sale of DEPB. DEPB means duty entitlement passbook scheme or duty free replenishment certificate, that is from again customs. So these 4 items or these 3 items, you can say 3, 2, 3, 4. This belongs to Customs Act. The terms which are written here belongs to Customs Act. The logic, I'll tell you why this is there in business, because whenever government from India, whenever we do some export activity, government of India is having expectation of foreign receipt, foreign currency inflow in India, and that's what they want. We should have more foreign currency inflow and less foreign currency outflow. That's how we can build a foreign currency reserve in India. We need a lot of foreign currency to repay our foreign debts, to have the payments toward foreign contracts. Government of India need a lot of foreign currency. That can happen only when we encourage export. To encourage export, government gives a lot of tax incentives to an exporter who is located in India. So some of the export benefit they have listed down here. Obviously, this benefits you are getting because you are into a export business. So any benefit that you derive from the custom department or government of India, because you are conducting the export activity, has to be taxed under PGBP head and not under capital gain head or IFOS head. We are just focusing on what is going to tax under PGBP head. Next, any amount received on Keyman insurance policy. We will talk more about Keyman insurance policy in IFRS. There we will discuss this. Any gift or benefit or perquisite received from the customer. Please understand, you have learned in IFOS, at least you know generally in IFOS, gift up to 50,000 is not taxable. Now, gift up to 50,000 is not taxable. That is there when the gift is in relation, like gift is given by your friends. That is personal in nature. If my customer is giving me 40,000 rupees gift, then please understand it is not taxable under IFOS. It has to be taxed under PGBP. Why? Because if it is like that, then every year I will ask Raj sir to give me 49,000 or 50,000 rupees gift and balance amount as a professional fees. And every year I can manipulate with the 50,000 rupees. I can save tax on 50,000 rupees. So they don't want this to happen. And therefore, what they are saying, any gift, usually client doesn't give you gift, okay, but still if it is given, any gift given by customer or any benefit derived from the customer will be taxable under the head PGBP. One more example, let's think like that. So I discussed with Raj sir and I said, Raj sir, don't pay me for teaching these beautiful students. You please just book my foreign tour expenses. You just book for me and my wife, just book a foreign tour, which should cost approximately 2 lakh rupees. Okay, you should book either Europe tour or maybe Australian tour or Canada holiday for 8 days, something like that, which cost you around 2 lakh rupees. But I don't want any money from you. This is a gift from you. Obviously, this free tickets or free tour package given by Raj sir to me was not in relation to my personal relation. It is given because my professional relationship with him. And this is representing my business receipt, indirect business receipt, that is also taxable under the PGBP head. Any interest, salary, bonus, commission received by the partner from a partnership firm. This we have already discussed under salary head. Yeah. Next, non-compete fees. Sir, what do you mean by non-compete fees? A fees paid for not doing a business. If you are earning by doing the business, taxable under PGBP. If you are earning by not doing the business, still it is taxable under PGBP. Many times Coca-Cola may pay some money to PepsiCo for not entering into particular geographical area. One competitor always pay to another competitor for not entering into one particular area. That is non-compete fees. Non-compete fees will be taxable under the PGBP. It is a receipt for not doing something, even that is business activity. Any dividend, any income derived by the trade or professional activity, this we will discuss in AOP. Fair market value converted into a capital asset, this we discuss in capital gain. And any other compensation or other payment received on the modification or termination of any business contract will also become taxable under the head PGBP. This is just the illustrative list of the business activities. You don't have to by heart it. You don't have to remember it. Okay, you will learn it gradually over the period of time. Let's move ahead. I just wanted to talk more about speculative business. This is little important aspect of our syllabus. So what do you mean by speculative business and why speculative business concept is important? Okay, I believe you people know at least basics about set off and carry forward. Let me ask you one question from the set off and carry forward. Can I set off speculative business loss? Can I set off speculative business loss with a normal business income? This is my question. Can I set off speculative business loss with a normal business income? No, everybody is saying no. That's right. No, sir, it is not possible. So what is the law? Speculative business loss, this is not possible. Speculative business loss can be set off only against speculative business business income. Now you tell me if something can be set off only against speculative business income, and in current year I have net loss and I don't have any speculative business income, then obviously this can be carried forward to the next year. So for how many years I can carry forward this? Random guess? No. It is wrong answer. Speculative business loss. You cannot give me two answers. It is speculative, not specified. 4 years is the right answer. We can carry forward it for the 4 years, not more than 4 years. Okay. Whereas normal business loss can be set off against normal business income, and it can also set off against speculative business income. Normal business loss does not mind it. Okay, normal business loss can be set off anywhere because that's a normal business loss. There is a special law for speculative business loss, not for normal business loss. You please tell me, normal business loss can be carried forward for how many years? Normal business loss can be carried forward for how many years? Normal business loss can be carried forward for, definitely. If speculative can be carried forward for 4 years, normal can be carried forward for 8 years, sir. Okay, so 8 years we can carry forward. Now please understand, because speculative business loss is having dedicated special provision, you cannot mix up speculative business transaction and normal business transaction. Law says you have to maintain separate sets of books of account. If I, as a chartered accountant, I'm doing both activities, CA firm is my normal business activity, whereas I'm doing some speculative transaction also. So I have to maintain two separate sets of books of accounts, and according to those two separate books of account, 2 PGBP will be computed. Okay, so please always remember this. So what do you mean by speculative? Speculative means something where delivery doesn't happen. Okay, it's a non-delivery contracts. For more detail, you have to study SFM in your strategic financial management. In strategic financial management, I don't know whether they have started this chapter or not. There is something called FNO market, futures and options. And in futures and options, you will learn a lot about derivatives market. Okay, this happened because of derivatives. Okay, this happened because of this happens because of derivatives. Okay, so what do you mean derivative? Derivative is futures and option, where you don't have to deliver a particular commodity or particular asset, underlying asset. It is just a price fluctuation benefit that you have to take. Similarly, one example if I have to give, tomorrow if I talk about that onion prices from 30 rupees kg, please understand, today onion is pricing 30 rupees kg. I believe that tomorrow it will go to 32 rupees. Okay, and I'm signing the contract with you. Why you are ready to sign contract? Because you are saying no, tomorrow it will go to 25 rupees. So in market, they call me bullish and they call you bearish. Please understand. Bullish means somebody who expects prices to go up, and bearish means somebody expects prices to go down. These two people will sign the contract, or they will discuss this, that okay, this is the future that we are signing, or this is the option we are signing, whatever it is. They have entered into a derivative contract. Actually, we both are not interested into onions. We are interested only in price fluctuation of the onion. Tomorrow if price goes to 33 rupees, please understand, tomorrow if price goes to 33 rupees, I will get extra 3 rupees from you. Okay, and if price falls to 28 rupees, then I have to pay you 2 rupees. Meaning thereby, I'm not going to pay you full price. I'm just going to give you net effect. Either there will be loss or there will be profit. If there is a loss, money will come to my account. If there is a profit, money will come to my account. If there is a loss, money will go from my account. Anyhow, I am not supposed to deliver you onions. Okay, so non-delivery based contracts are called as speculative contract. So it means a transaction in which a contract for a purchase or sales of any commodity, including stocks and shares, is periodically or ultimately settled otherwise than, this is very, very important line, otherwise than actual delivery. Otherwise than actual delivery. Please understand, we don't deliver anything. It is settled otherwise than actual delivery, and therefore it is known as speculative. But Income Tax Department wanted to give some relaxation to the share market, which is like share market transactions which are executed on a recognized stock exchange or commodity transaction which are executed on recognized stock exchange of a commodity. Okay, recognized stock exchange for shares and recognized stock exchange for commodity market. Recognized stock exchange example, NSE, BSE. Recognized stock exchange example for commodity market is MCDX. Okay, MCX, MCDX. So if you do certain transaction on recognized stock exchange, then they have been excluded forcefully from the definition of speculative transaction. Sir, if something is not deemed to be speculative, then what does it become? If something is not speculative, then it becomes normal business. Please understand. Then it becomes normal business activity. And when it becomes normal business activity, obviously law relating to normal business will apply. Not speculative. Please understand. For speculative, law is different. For normal, law is common. Okay. So they are giving some relaxation, hedging, and all these words you have to learn in SFM. Please excuse me. Otherwise, if I start teaching you hedging, this itself will take more than 2 hours. That's not an intention of this revision session. Okay, hedging contract in a respect of raw material or merchandise or a stock or shares. So you are already having some kind of stock or you are having shares. You are just hedging. Hedging is just securing yourself in a commodity market. Please understand, you are not executing hedging contract for earning profit. You do hedging contract for securing yourself from the future price fluctuation. Forward contracts are also not speculative contract. Trading in derivatives through recognized stock exchange. This is very, very important wording. Derivatives through recognized stock exchange. Trading in commodity derivatives. This is for shares. First line was for shares. Trading in commodity derivatives through recognized stock exchange, which is chargeable to tax for commodity transaction tax. Here it was chargeable to STT, security transaction tax. And whenever you do transaction on commodity exchange, is it chargeable to CTT, commodity transaction tax. Most importantly, there is one exception to CTT. Please understand, there is one exception to CTT, and that is agriculture derivatives. On agriculture derivatives, you don't have to pay commodity transaction tax. At the same time, it is excluded from the definition of speculative transaction. Meaning thereby, if you want to exclude your transaction, commodity transaction in a derivative market, you have to pay CTT on that, commodity transaction tax. Then only it is excluded. But for agriculture commodity, CTT is exempted. Even though CTT is exempted, it is not treated as a derivative contract for a speculative purpose. Please understand. So this note is most important note. Okay. Speculative business shall be treated as a separate and the distinct business. Why? Because of set off and carry forward rules that you have to remember. If you can add one line here, speculative business loss can be set off only against speculative business income, and if not, then carry forward for 4 years. Okay, please write it down. When we go to the set off and carry forward chapter, there you will understand it more. If you are having any doubt till now, you can ask me. I'm just pausing lecture for some time.